I'm looking forward today to hearing your views on what is unique about China sourcing. My first question
Well,
is why source in China? Or no, actually, my first question is what is unique about China sourcing?
China sourcing was very unique about 10 or 15 years ago, but actually today there is more and more countries that are actually trying to challenge China regarding a sourcing destination. What's remain unique with China is China is a massive country, and actually most of the sourcing can be done in China. Also, China is challenged by other countries, but none of the other countries can be the next China. So we have some good sourcing opportunities in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Ethiopia, in Brazil, in Turkey, but it will be for niche category. Actually, China remains a huge potential of sourcing for existing suppliers, but discovering also new sources. All the activities we did around for the last 5 years, while challenging China with other countries and challenging the current supplier pool, we find out that the gap with other countries is getting narrow, but actually China still keeps the lead because there is more and more new sources with a very high level efficiency that are able to compete with existing sources in China. So what is unique about China is that after 10 or 20 years of sourcing, all the suppliers are able to understand foreign countries' requirement and are willing to adapt to match the client's requirement, while other countries are still on the learning curve on how to do things.
Can you talk about how can you do China sourcing and carry it out effectively?
Well, we run a very strict program, in terms of dragon sourcing, we run a very strict and analytical program on, first of all, identifying a long list of potential suppliers. This is quite easy because the web is very well developed in China. But starting with the long list, we need now to clear the list and to narrow down with a very specific requirement that we are working out with our client in terms of telephone screening. What are the few 5 or 6 questions we should ask the supplier to eliminate them or not? And then we prepare a very comprehensive document called RFI, Request for Information, on which we try to measure the maturity of the suppliers. Not only about its business credential, but also about the type of equipment, the age of equipment, the brands, and all these kind of things to be sure that when we have the full answer, we can measure through a scorecard the maturity of the suppliers, besides the price quotation. And this methodology is deployed in any country we are deploying our activities on the same model. So we are able actually to compare China to Indonesia, China to Thailand, China to Turkey, and especially the type of answers we receive. And may I say that today China suppliers have a filling rate of about 70% of those documents, while other countries' filling rate is a bit lower, around 50-55%. So actually, the Chinese suppliers are used to receive this kind of demand.
Should we start from that question again, or do you remember where we got left off?
Sorry, when did it drop?
You were talking about the I can't remember the exact words that you used. Maybe we could just start over with how can China sourcing be carried out effectively?
Okay, so basically on deploying a very effective methodology by gathering a long list of potential suppliers, which is quite easy to get in China because it is very web related, and then screening the suppliers through what we call an RSI in order to measure the maturity of the suppliers based on the equipment he has, the tooling, and things like that, and we give a score to each of the suppliers, enabling us to measure how mature the supplier is. We are using the same methodology for other countries, and I must say that China suppliers have a filling rate of about 75%, meaning that the Chinese supplier knows that they have to go through this process in order to be selected, while other countries have a filling rate of about 55% because they're not fully used to have this kind of screening.
And where have you seen some success?
Well, we had a success after 11 years. We've been quite successful on sourcing and everything that can be sourced from China. It can be mechanical parts, it can be chemical parts, it can be biochemical. Even for some pharmaceutical industry, we did some mutton blood sourcing with a very strict requirement regarding the supply chain. And we found the right farms able to supply the blood to a pharmaceutical industry in China with the right European specifications. So there is a lot of success stories in China. Still.
This is exciting.
The question is where we don't have success stories. It happened for very low-end products when the Chinese suppliers doesn't want to be involved anymore because there is no value added, there is no huge market for them. And in that case, we have to source outside of China to be delivered in China. For example, very basic steel counterweight with no much specification on the density. And Chinese suppliers tend to be more expensive on that. And we have to source from Burma and from Vietnam to deliver to China. Because to some extent, the suppliers in China want to get more involved in value-added items.
Thanks, Olivier. And can you provide a brief background of yourself?
Well, I'm a French engineer. I've been graduated from École Polytechnique and École des Mines de Paris. To a great engineering school in France. I used to work for a French company called Saint-Gobain as a production manager. Then I was a consultant with an American firm called Booz Allen and Hamilton before joining a high-tech French company working on the law enforcement based on fingerprint system reader. And then I created a company with my associate 11 years ago. And I'm living in Asia already now 17 years.
And thanks for sharing today.